Arsenal are in the Champions League semi-finals, and for the first time in years, the entire football world is actually paying attention to what they are doing. And let's be honest, from the start, if someone told you at the beginning of the season that Arsenal would reach back-to-back Champions League semi-finals for the first time in their history, most people would have laughed it off. Not because the squad isn't strong enough, but because doing it consistently at this level is brutally difficult. But here we are, it has happened. Arsenal are in the final four of Europe's biggest competition, and suddenly the conversation is no longer about potential. It is about pressure, expectation, and whether this team can actually finish the job. And now things are getting even more serious because Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid are next. Before we get into Simeone's shocking comments, we need to understand the reality of how Arsenal got here, starting with that second leg against Sporting CP. On paper, it looks simple, a 0-0 draw at the Emirates, combined with a 1-0 win from the first leg in Lisbon, and Arsenal go through. Job done. But if you actually watched it, you know it was anything but comfortable. Sporting did not come to London to admire Arsenal, they came to fight for their lives in the tie. From the first whistle, they pressed aggressively, disrupted Arsenal's rhythm, and forced mistakes in areas where Arsenal normally look calm and in control. At times, it honestly felt like Sporting were the more dangerous team. That moment when Jenny Kitamo hit the post, that was the real turning point of the night emotionally. Because if that goes in, everything changes. The atmosphere shifts, the tension rises, and Arsenal are suddenly dragged into a completely different kind of match. And that is the key theme of this Arsenal side right now. They are in control, but not fully dominant. They are managing games, but not always finishing them off. That is why the performance felt tense instead of comfortable. Then came the bigger picture moments. Max Dowman coming on at 16 years old and getting one of the loudest cheers of the night says a lot about the emotional state inside the stadium. The fans were not just watching football at that point, they were waiting for something to happen, waiting for a spark, waiting for someone to change the energy. And that tells you something important. This Arsenal team is not at full emotional or physical sharpness right now. They look like a squad carrying the weight of a long season. The Premier League pressure, the Champions League knockout rounds, injuries, expectations, it is all starting to show in small moments. You saw it in the front line, you saw it in the passing, you saw it in the lack of sharpness in key attacking situations. Players like Gyökeres struggled to impose themselves, others looked just a fraction off their usual level. Not bad, just not sharp enough. But even in all of that, Arsenal did something very important again. They kept another clean sheet, and this is not a small detail. 8 clean sheets in 12 Champions League matches is not luck. That is structure. That is organisation. That is a team that knows how to survive in Europe. Even when the attacking flow is not perfect, the defensive foundation is holding everything together. And that is exactly what makes them dangerous heading into a semi-final. Now we move to Diego Simeone, because this is where things get interesting. Reports coming out of Atletico Madrid suggest Simeone has been very vocal about Arsenal. He has described them as one of the strongest teams Atletico have faced this season. He has praised their intensity, their structure, their tactical discipline, and even went as far as saying that Mikel Arteta has built a fantastic team. But the most shocking part, he reportedly compared this Arsenal side to his 2014 Atletico Madrid team. Now pause on that for a second. That 2014 Atletico team reached the Champions League final. They went toe-to-toe with Real Madrid. They were one of the most disciplined, aggressive and mentally strong teams in Europe at the time. And Simeone is suggesting that this current Arsenal team carries similar traits. That is not casual praise. That is respect from one of the most demanding managers in world football. But here is where we have to ask the real question. Is this genuine admiration or is it psychological preparation? Because Simeone does not speak randomly. Every statement has a purpose. And when a manager like him publicly praises an opponent before a semi-final, it can do two things. It can either build confidence in Arsenal, or it can quietly increase pressure on them. Because now Arsenal are not just underdogs trying to prove themselves. They are being spoken about like a top European side that should be ready to compete at the highest level. That changes expectations, and expectations change how teams perform. Simeone knows this better than anyone. Atletico Madrid are not a flashy team. They are not built on dominating possession or entertaining football. They are built on control, discipline and punishment. They wait, they suffer, and when the moment comes, they strike. That is why this semi-final is such a dangerous challenge for Arsenal. Because if Arsenal are slightly off in attack, slightly wasteful, or slightly impatient, Atletico will take advantage. This is not going to be a game decided by who looks better. It is going to be decided by who makes fewer mistakes and who is more clinical when chances come. And that is where Arsenal's biggest question sits right now. They can control games, they can dominate phases, they can defend at an elite level, but can they consistently kill matches when it matters most? Because against Sporting, there were chances, but no finishing blow. Against other strong sides this season, the same pattern has appeared. Control without full authority, and Atletico Madrid punish that kind of football. They do not need many chances. They do not need momentum. They just need one moment. So when Simeone calls Arsenal one of the best teams they have faced, it sounds like respect on the surface. But underneath, it also feels like a message. We know what you are good at, and we know what you struggle with. Now the pressure shifts to Mikel Arteta, because this is no longer just about tactics. It is about mentality. It is about deciding how Arsenal approach these two legs. Do they play safe and controlled, hoping their quality is enough? Or do they take more risk, try to be more aggressive, and force Atletico onto the back foot? That balance will decide everything. And this is where Arsenal's season becomes a defining moment, because they are not just competing anymore. They are expected to compete. They are no longer the surprise team. They are now part of the conversation for Europe's elite. That changes everything. And with Manchester City waiting in the Premier League, the pressure does not stop. Every match now is part of a bigger story. Every performance feeds into belief or doubt. Every decision matters more than the last. So the question is simple, not just ready to compete, but ready to win. Because Simeone has already set the tone. He has already acknowledged them. He has already placed them in a category of respect. Now it is Arsenal's turn to respond where it matters most, on the pitch, over two legs, with everything on the line. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment where Arsenal stop being a team building towards something and become a team that actually finishes it. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Simeone's comments are real respect or mind games? And do you believe this Arsenal team is strong enough to get past Atletico Madrid? Because the answer to that might define their entire season.